3, 2, 1, go.
So welcome back to SDG Live, hashtag SDG Live if you want to get out there and check out some of the other conversations we've had so far. We're at the SDG Live studio, makes sense, right, in terms of names, here in Davos at the World Economic Forum. We are, as I've said, some of our other conversations, we're about 5 or 10 feet away from the very street where all the conferees are running up and down.
That's right, yeah.
And guess what? We snagged a really good one off the street. And we're going to be talking about investing in infrastructure with Rachel Kyte. She's the CEO and Special Representative to the UN Secretary General for Sustainable Energy for All. So we're going to focus on investing in infrastructure. But first, Rachel, I've just mentioned 2 titles. Describe in a sentence each of those, what you do.
So Sustainable Energy for All was an initiative under the previous Secretary General taken on by Antonio Guterres around what has now become the goal for sustainable energy in the Sustainable Development Goals. So goal number 7, but linked to so many other things.
7.
Yeah, 7. But you know, can't do 7 without the others,
you
right?
You do the fingers.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, it's sort of, you know, some kind of secret sign.
You can go like this.
Special badge.
You can do this.
Yeah. So universal access to everyone.
I didn't look very cool doing that, did I?
No, but it's okay. So,
right.
but 1 billion people don't have access to electricity today. Got to solve that.
1 billion.
2.8 billion people don't have access to clean fuels for cooking. So, got to solve that. Ultimately, very solvable, but tricky. Secondly, we need to have a rapid increase in the rate of energy efficiency in the energy system. We have to be much more efficient. We need to be much more energy productive. And thirdly, of course, much more renewable energy in the energy mix. Achieve those 3 things, many of the other goals start to become possible.
Investing in infrastructure. Let's break it down. What infrastructure, and I can tell what you're focusing on, but drill down to that, what you'll do in town number A.
Well, so in fact, around the world, we have not been investing sufficiently in the infrastructure that we need to grow sustainably for quite a period of time. And there's all kinds of interesting aspects to that, including the fact that over the last 10 years we've had very low interest rates, so that would have been the moment to really amp up the investment.
Still got time though, right?
Still got time, but interest rates are on the rise and we're sort of emerging into a new era. However, we need energy infrastructure, water infrastructure, you need roads, you need the built infrastructure, you know, the cities that people will live in and the buildings in which they will work and they will live. And that is a, you know, $90 trillion proposition. But
$90 trillion.
All of that has to be invested in a resilient way. That infrastructure has to be able to cope with the changing climate.
Yeah.
And that infrastructure has to provide services for everybody. You know, if you take energy, for example, you and I grew up with energy systems which were centralized, i.e. we had coal-fired power plants or fossil fuel power plants, went up into a grid, the grid got as far as it got, and then if you lived beyond where the grid got to, then you didn't have any power. Today, with modern technology, modern infrastructure, which requires different kinds of investment, then it's possible to get everybody affordable, reliable, clean energy. Well,
okay.
At least that's the goal.
So you kind of gave us a good umbrella of what infrastructure means for you. And I know that you're going to say it depends when I ask this question, but don't say that. And pick one because you like it personally. Which of all of those, if I gave you $1, you would spend it on first?
Well, I think that we've been working on understanding what happens when you make certain investments. If you invest in closing the gap for access to energy more quickly than would happen, you know, under current plans, that gives you an opportunity to run better health services because it's difficult to run health services without power. It allows you to get better educational attainment because you're studying at night and the school has got power, and so can do. It allows you to maybe start a home-based business, to participate in the economy. So I think there is a very strong case for making sure that people have access to reliable, affordable, clean energy.
Okay, what does that mean in real? Is it a battery? Is it a facility that you would put your dollar on? Drill down further for me if you can.
So again, depending on where you are in the world. So I talked about 1 billion people not having access to electricity. 80% of those 1 billion people live in just 20 countries. Most of the people in those 20 countries who don't have access to power are living well away from the grid, so they're living in rural areas. living quite marginalised lives. The rest of them are living on the edges of city. They're moving into the city. So how you would connect people living in the city to power, perhaps with mini-grids, microgrids connecting up to the big grid, versus sort of real off-grid, what we call, maybe home solar systems based on households, maybe a microgrid on a clinic for rural populations. These are different ways of doing it. We don't have to wait for the investment to go into the grid and moving the grid out, mile by mile, year by year. We can actually close the gap more quickly by investing in off-grid solutions. And that's
microgrids, that's
interesting. Microgrids, mini-grids, different kinds of systems. We're sort of technology neutral, but we think that that's sufficient to get you to participate in the economy. You cannot run an aluminum smelter off a mini-grid. That's not the argument. The argument is that you can provide enough power for people to be able to participate economically and to get their time back from spending time looking for firewood and things like that. That's where off-grid solutions really play a role.
How important is the public-private relationship to get this done?
Essential.
Yeah.
Policy matters.
Right.
Governments have got to create good investment climates. They've got to create enabling environments for business, small as well as large. They need to have clean governance. There need to be places that businesses want to operate. You have to be able to operate a business as a woman. You've got to be able to collateralize your assets, get a loan, things like that. That's the business of government. Business then is in the business of investing. And there we need the domestic banks in developing countries to participate in their own future. In many African countries, for example, the country itself invests less than 3% of the GDP in energy. Well, we're not going to grow an energy infrastructure with that level of investment. But then foreign direct investment...
Is that inflation adjusted?
Yeah. So foreign direct investment, very important. Lots of commercial returns. You can make money investing in renewable energy in emerging markets. The prices have come down. So this is something very attractive. And now we're seeing that others want to participate. So mission
really quickly here, the 3% GDP, what is needed? It's going to vary, but in that example you brought up, do you need 20%?
Well, I think it depends. I think it depends again on the country and the state of the energy infrastructure. But if you're in a country where 80% of your citizens don't have access, you need to be investing in a little bit more than 3% in closing that access gap more quickly. And guess what? You can do it at a cheaper price than just investing in perhaps a centralized solution, which maybe 5 years ago people thought was the answer.
The reason why I ask what Rachel is like, I'm trying to get a sense of relativity.
Right.
They need 5x, they need 10x of what they're doing right now. Would you say, is it 50x or is it 20x or
no,
2x?
I don't think it's 50 or 20. We've calculated that the cost of closing the energy access gap is around $40 billion a year between now and 2030. About half of that is already flowing. So, and if you, again, we're not talking about every country, right? We're talking about those countries with energy gaps. So we produced some work last year called Energizing Finance, which really tracked all of the financial flows, domestic and international, public and private. And we can see that there's a lot happening. It's too slow in its commitment and distribution. The money's not reaching where it's needed.
Too slow.
But there's something that we can build on.
And not enough. You need 2x, you need more speed.
Yeah.
How are you going to do that? What's the magic wand solution there?
Well, so I think, governments laying the table, as it were, for people to come and be part of the solution. I think there's more and more interest from the private sector, from private investment in investing in energy systems because this is a growth market. I think you're seeing a lot of new business models emerging. Of course, Africa is the crucible of innovation here. People using pay-as-you-go systems, solar home systems to get people who are on low income access to electricity. And then you're seeing other innovations as well around different business models to close the gap and to bring renewable energy into the mix. I think there's much more room for investment in energy efficiency, and there are some new areas where we haven't even seen enough uptake yet. But I was saying that philanthropy, faith-based groups, all want to be part of the solution to closing the energy access gap. So capital's never the problem, it's just getting it to where it's needed.
All right, so getting to where it's needed. One of the discussion I was having at the Build conference with the German Marshall Fund over the last couple of years, specific people versus place. And since we're talking about investing in infrastructure, and the topic here at the Economic Forum is one of the major topics is workforce, right?
Right.
investing in infrastructure, therefore, is it the right thing to be doing it in place, or should it be more in the people side?
Well, I think first of all, infrastructure investment, everything from from transport infrastructure to energy infrastructure, is location specific. So those are jobs right there. You've got the construction, which is temporary, but then you've got all the operations and maintenance, and increasingly there's a technology aspect to our energy systems. Right? Energy systems in the past were all about centralized supply being pushed out to people. The energy systems of the future are going to be ones where consumers demand and use technology to get the energy services they want. So everything from using your phone to work out how much electricity you're using in your house storing electricity, your car storing electricity. So all of these things are completely changing the way that we think about energy systems of the future. So the jobs in that, I mean, yes, there's automation, there's going to be a lot of artificial intelligence, but there are jobs, and those are going to be location specific.
What have you heard at the conference so far, at the Economic Forum, I should say, from other conferees or other speakers that made you go, that's interesting, based on your expertise?
Well, so I had a very interesting conversation yesterday with one of our private sector partners, Philips Lighting. So Philips are known for the innovations in the light bulb, for innovations in the business model, for bringing renewable, cheap, reliable street lighting to cities around the world. But we were talking about the nexuses between water, energy and food, right? So you need energy to pump water, you need water to create energy. There's a whole debate about the relationship between energy and food. You use land to grow crops for energy rather than food. Is this sustainable?
Right.
And we were talking about vertical farming and vertical horticulture. So this is using very small amounts of water and small amounts of light, which Philips have really specialized in, to have farms in cities. So I think people have maybe read press articles about this in the Netherlands, where they've really pioneered this. But such is the energy efficiency and the water efficiency of this vertical urban farming that you can do that in cities in extremely difficult situations.
Why'd you like it?
Why do I like it? Because we know that we're going to need to grow more nutritious food.
Right.
We can't blow out energy demand to do that.
Yeah.
So if we can do that in a super efficient way, and we can do it where people are, and we can get people more nutritious food without using a lot of water, that seems to be a win-win-win-win-win. And that's the thing about the SDGs. Another one, cooling. Planet's getting warmer, people are living in cities, people need ambient air to live.
Yeah.
We need vaccines and medicines that are cool, and we need food that has been cooled. But we can't blow out our energy demand forecasts, right? We have to do this in an efficient way. And we can't use gases which destroy the ozone. So in international law, we've got our Kigali Amendment, we've got a Paris Agreement, and we've got a Sustainable Development Goal. So the exam question is, how can we provide cooling for everybody, even if you're on a low income? How can we make sure the medicines that get to you have been cooled? And how can we make sure that you can get access to nutritious food? That's a great question that the private sector with government can solve, and those kinds of conversations are happening here.
Investing in infrastructure. My grandfather's sitting right here. How do you describe it to him in about 15 seconds?
Investing in infrastructure is investing in the skeleton that we need as a society that will hold us up and allow us to do the things that we want to do. The fact that we're not investing more in ways for us to be able to move from A to B, in the places that we will be able to live and work in that will sustain us, and that we're not investing in the water infrastructure, the energy infrastructure, and the food infrastructure that allows us to prosper is, I think, especially in the West, where I think the investment has been not at the level as needed, we're cutting off our nose to spite our face. We've got to embrace the future, and the future is going to look very different than the past.
You hear that? Got it?
Hi, Grandpa.
Yeah, hey Gramps, how's it going? Tell me something I don't know. There's a lot of stuff I don't, but you have, of all the things I don't know about this very topic that we're on today, tell me something I don't know that's really like, gee whiz, in 15 seconds.
Did you know that of the 2.8 billion people who can't get access to fuel to cook a meal cleanly today, the choice of putting a meal on the table is one of no food or imperiling the health of themselves, their lungs and their children's lungs, that in 2017, 40% of the world's population has to make that calculation every day. And yet the solutions are there. We have access to clean fuels, LPG, LNG, ethanol, that with more investment in technology, we could build stoves that can burn other fuels more cleanly, and that I honestly believe that we could close that gap or fix that problem if the people that weren't labouring with that problem weren't normally women living on poor incomes, on low incomes.
Lightning round, you only can respond with one word. One word only. I can say as many words as I want.
Yeah, I know this is not fair, but okay.
Yeah, this is fun. You're
That's
fine.
fun.
You'll be fine.
We're in the warm here.
You kind of know the stuff anyway, a little bit. Great to have you, by the way. Energizing finance in infrastructure. Just one word reaction.
Flow.
Flow. Okay. WEF, SDGs together.
Greenwash if you're not careful.
Okay, a lot of dashes. Something that just surprised you? What's surprising here in Davos so far? What surprised you?
So the SDGs were 2030. It wasn't 2050, 2070, 2100. It's 2030. It's 13 years. These are captains of industry. They are paid to look around the corner. So any company that's here making a commitment for 2040 or for 2035, I'm sorry, no, I want to hear the commitments for 2025. I want to hear commitments for 2022. The world, I mean, everybody signed on to the SDGs. There were no reservations, no brackets, no maybe me, but maybe not. Everybody's in, so the business community needs to be innovating and doing the business of business, but within that urgency. This is not mid-century, this is 2030. Ladies and gentlemen, pull your finger out.
How about that one, huh?
Is that okay?
That's. We're going to leave it there because it was impassioned. I can't thank you enough, Rachel Kyte, here with SDG Live in our studio, which is close to a lot of you. I don't know if you can hear it, a lot of foot traffic, which makes it really energetic.
Yeah, there's a lot of people. It's filling up.
It's filling up, and I know what you're going to be saying as you walk down here Promenade. You'll be saying just that, right, to all the other conferees. Thank you so much. And of course, check out the hashtag if you want to hear more of these conversations about the SDGs, the World Economic Forum here in Davos, and how the conversation is happening. Great to pull one of the conferees in off the streets for a moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.